Hello everyone and welcome to the Recap Review. Today we're going to be going over the Ignition Trilogy. Now the Ignition Trilogy is what 2006 to 2008 is generally referred to, considering that the entire point was to ignite the heart. There's some poem that went along with it, I can't remember it word for word right now. However, the entire point of the Ignition Trilogy was to find this little pill, the Kanohi Ignika, the Mask of Life. In 2006, we found out about it because Matsnui was dying, and the Toa Nuva had to go retrieve this on Voya Nui. Well, unfortunately for them, the Paraka showed up and knocked them all senseless. And by that I mean they knocked them unconscious and sapped their powers, broke their weapons, Liwa, and took their masks, so on and so forth. So, they were effectively useless. So a new team of Toa had to take up arms, and that was basically the Mctorn, sans Onipun Maku. So they went to Voya Nui, became the Toa Ignika, haha. So, yeah, they ended up finding the mask. Unfortunately, this guy's a pill and decided to fly away into the ocean, where we go into 2007, we hit Mari Nui. We get the Toa Mari, same Toa, different element, which is water, and they fight the Baraki, ancient warlords. And we can get into the entire, Baraki versus Paraka debate. All we like, Baraki win, but for now, we're going to focus on what the stories entail. Now, this is just a brief summary before we actually go on location and talk about the years in depth. They're the set versions of them, at least. So this is just a warm-up. So, Toa to get the mask. Matoro uses this mask and he dies. And then, splat, we go all the way to 2008, where we meet the Toa Nuva again. And they get some upgrades. And they, awaken Matsunui. And that's what this symbol on the Kanohi Ignika is supposed to represent. This is supposed to be the Matsunui robot, the Mctorn universe. So, the Ignition Trilogy, story-wise, is generally well-received. A lot of people really like it for its darker tone, its more serious storytelling, and so on and so forth. However, a lot of people also do not like it because that's when Bionicle got really cluttered. Got all the serials, and got all the books, the comics, all these different types of media, and it just piled and piled and piled on. So there are some people that do not like it. It also introduced a couple of things people don't like, the Anika build and the Avtorn build or the Agori build or whatever you'd like to call it. So there are some things and some weaker joints as well. However, for the most part, it's generally well received. So with that warm-up all out of the way, let's go ahead and go on location where we will go ahead and discuss the lines in depth. And then, maybe after a short break, this mask will turn gold. Let's go. Today we're going to start off with 2006, and again I am on location, mainly because I don't have the space to review them all in one place, and they look so nice up here. Now 2006, I want to make my stance on this year fairly clear. 2006 as a year was very well received, and a lot of people really loved the year because it took Bionicle, it took itself fairly seriously. It gave everything a much darker tone and more character development, so on and so forth. So a lot of people really liked the year. I like the year a lot as well. I like the sets, I like the story, I liked all the media, so on and so forth. It was fantastic. But sometimes a few certain people take it just a little bit too far. I'm talking to you, Viper. But regardless, 2006 has been incredibly well received throughout the years. It's what a lot of people believe to be the benchmark of Bionicle and how it should be treated even today. Now, 2006 did a lot of interesting things. It set two precedents. One, how the heroes are built, and two, how the villains are built. Now, the heroes are now standardized. They're using the properly termed Ignika build. And this is exactly where that term comes from, because the Ignika debuted it. And then how the villains are built with the Paraka build, because the Paraka debuted it. This was also an interesting year where the villains didn't come out last. They actually came out first. And that's a trend Bionicle would kind of sort of follow up until its end, but 2008 kind of switched that up where they just came out concurrently. But 2006 switched things up and the villains came out first because in the story they were supposed to be the good guys. They were supposed to be the Toa. Boy, they were ugly Toa. We also got custom Mctorn. Now, this was the first year we had gotten Matoran that were not clone sets. They were all very different. However, the heroes and the villains remained to be clones. The Titans were also relatively well received as well. You don't see Cardaz here because I don't generally consider him to be a set. He doesn't come with any new exclusive piece. He doesn't come with any new group of pieces that makes him, well sought after. You can just take Axon Brutaka and Vezon and Fenrak, mix them all together, you have Cardaz and Vezon. Another thing 2006 did was it started the trend of having blasters for pretty much every character. However, while 2007 would kind of mix that up a bit, 2006 had the Toa and the Paraka using the Zamor launchers. And the collectible of this year were those exact same blaster ammunitions, the Zamor spheres. They'd come in several different colors all over the place, and they're actually still used today as far as I'm aware because they're just so gosh darn useful. But that's about it for collectibles, and generally 2006. The story kicked off the Ignition Trilogy because Matt Nui is dying, and he needs to be brought back to life. So the Toa and Nika end up going to Voya Nui to save the Toa Nuva and get the Mask of Life, but they suck at so many things, and by suck I mean the Mask of Life is just a jerk, and right before they were supposed to get it, it jumped into the water. Funny, that sounds kind of like a segue. Let's jump into 2007. And here we have 2007, still on location. Now, 2007 continued the Ignition Trilogy by sending the Mask of Life and subsequently the Toa Ignika, the Toa Enika, down into the depths of Mari Nui. Now, this is very interesting because it started kind of a small trend of making all the waves kind of environmentally themed. It's like, next year we'll get swamp and we'll get air, but this year it was entirely in the water. Now that led to the Baraki, specifically the animal-themed sets of the year. We got, the eel, the manta ray, the shark, the crab, squid, and the mantis, and a bunch of other different things. It's a very interesting year because the precedent that 2006 set up with the clone sets and the same building style, 2007 took it, mashed it up, and chucked it. Because all the Baraki and all the Toa are completely different builds. Not so much the Toa, they mostly follow the same precedents, Anika builds, Paraka builds, so on and so forth, but the Baraki were completely unique, and this was the first time in Bionicle's run, except for, I think, the Rahi, although they were kind of cloney, that the villains were completely different. They were not clone sets. The Titans were also really cool. We got a lot of really great Titans this year. We got Nocturne, Maxilos, and Spinax, the great combo pack that is Karzani back there, and the lovable, just so adorable, Gadunka. So 2007 also introduced us to a lot of fantastic pieces and building methods, specifically the ones notably in Maxilos and Spinax, and Gadunka. A lot of interesting creative designs. Some of the downfalls of 2007, however, were the brittle bones in the lime pieces. So Elek and Hali suffered greatly because the joints were incredibly brittle and they would break. Oh, even Lesovic over there, if you can see him. A lot of people did not like some of the designs for the Toa, specifically Kongu not having a melee weapon and being incredibly short and stumpy, and Matoro having awkward design, what's the word? Features, I guess? We'll go with features. So some people were not too terribly happy about that. However, for the most part, 2007 was generally well received. The story was interesting, and we did see some, I guess you could call it character growth, with Matoro dying and all the Toa being kind of sullen about it. And this is the first time in recent memory that we had a Toa team, a main Toa team, without one of its members. So it's very interesting to see how that affected everyone, and it did affect everyone in quite a large amount. The death was well recorded in the comics and the books, and affected quite a large portion of the fan base for quite a while. Oh, I remember Matoro, BZ Power signatures. However, the year, in general, was quite well received. Everyone really enjoyed the Baraki. They set kind of a benchmark for how villains should be done in Bionicle. The Toa, for the most part, were well received, and the collectibles of this year were the Squid. Not really great collectibles, not even that varied of collectibles, but they were there. 2007 marks the last time we got any sort of collectibles in Bionicle. So, that generally sums up 2007. We didn't get anything too special in the way of masks. However, it did lead us to the next year, as the Mask of Life was used, but kind of discarded in Cardanui. So let's go ahead and head on over to 2008. And finally, back to 2008. Now, 2008 officially wrapped up the Ignition Trilogy. However, it also wrapped up the Matorn Universe, saga. See, in the very end, the Toa Nuva came back for the first time since 2002. They were completely different, fighting Makuta, but like different Makuta, a species of Makuta. And they were all back together. Even Takanuva came back. And we also got a ton of fantastic vehicle sets as well. 2008, however, did continue the precedent set by 2006 by having the Ignika and the Paraka builds predominantly featured. However, the Makuta did not really use that. They kind of did their own thing, which was kind of interesting. But the Toa Ignika, and to a degree some of the Titans, still followed suit in 2006's footsteps. The year was massive, and I mean that in some ways literally. This year contains the most amount of sets released for the Ignition Trilogy, topping 2006's 24 and 2007's 22 sets, with a total of 29 sets released in 2008. Now, we also had a lot of other things happen. Specifically, the Matorn Universe robot was revealed. Everything that had been happening that was not on Matanui had been happening inside a 40 million foot tall robot that intended to go back and do some other things that we'll talk about later on, maybe in 2009. So, 2008 had a large impact on things. It kicked us out of the Matorn Universe, revealed so many interesting secrets, the Toa Mata's origins, Toa Ignika doing stuff, Takanuva doing stuff, where the Borak came from, a ton of incredible information that we wouldn't have known otherwise. It's a phenomenal year as far as story is concerned. The sets were kind of controversial, specifically the Toa Nuva, considering they didn't keep many of their color schemes pretty much at all, and it disappointed a lot of fans greatly. However, as previously mentioned, the vehicles were incredibly well received, and this would not be the last time that LEGO would do these vehicle sets. In fact, since they were released back in, 2007, they would continue on to the very end of Bionicle in 2009/2010. So there were no collectibles in 2008. Unfortunately, this year saw the end of the collectibles once and for all, a trend that was started in 2001. It was quite unfortunate. As far as masks are concerned, however, we did get a lot of different variants of the Toa Nuva's masks. We got a bunch of new masks from the Makuta. However, we also got the Kanohi Ignika, and that was incredibly interesting. Unfortunately, it was only in silver. We had yet to get the gold one, but everyone was really excited because we at least had the mask. We also got the Kanohi Krakan back again, and instead of having 6 holes in the mask, it had only 4. Nobody really knows the reasoning for that. So 2008 was a fantastic way to kick off, or finish, wrap up the Ignition Trilogy. It was big, it was loud, it had so much going on, so much to ingest, and then it ended, and we were kicked off to yet another year. 2008 was probably not the perfect way to end the year, set-wise at least, but it certainly wasn't the worst. Had a lot of great stories, a lot of great comics, a lot of great books, and a lot of great animations. Certainly got everyone pumped and hyped, and kind of sad when after 8 years we were leaving the very place we had been the entire time. So that's been 2008. That has been the Ignition Trilogy. What do you guys think about it? Do you like it? Do you prefer it to the golden years? Let me know either in the comments below or on the TTV message boards at board.ttvpodcast.com. Now, I am going to go ahead and take a bit of a break. I don't know exactly how long that break will be. However, when I return, I'll return with the next year, 2009. Thank you all very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.